So James Bond is being bought by Amazon, and they're going to have full creative control over the franchise going forward. Now, the Broccoli family are going to be part of this, joint venture partnership where they're not going to have control over like the movies and what they can do with it, but they're still going to be somewhat involved. But some fans are concerned because the fact that Amazon has taken over, we know about the Jack Reacher situation. Obviously, Jack Reacher is a newer franchise, but they have flipped that into a TV show series, and that's been good. But James Bond has been around for a very long time. And there have been reports about where Amazon would like to turn it into a situation where they can make spin-offs, they can make TV shows off of it, and not really take its time with making movies. And that takes away the experience from a fan because James Bond is known for its cinema experience. It's known for its movies. But if you put out multiple projects in a year where you have your spin-offs, you have all these characters and these different storylines, things can get maybe convoluted, confused, and fans might care less because the whole point of a James Bond experience is you have a character, you show them for 3 to 4 movies, then you wait a period of 4 or 5 years to find another character, then you do it all over again. The concern might be, well, what if you don't have enough ideas and you're just being so repetitive and all of a sudden it gets boring and the fans are turned off? That is a valid concern. Now, back in 2024 of December, Barbara Broccoli, the producer of James Bond, was really upset with Amazon, just adamant, not liking the direction that Amazon wants to go in, and offended by what they want to do with James Bond, calling them blanking idiots. I don't cuss on this channel, but you get the idea. Now, the reason why she was so upset was because during the negotiations for the deal, Amazon committed to showing Bond films, but then the executives suggested that they bring Bond into the Amazon universe with something like a TV show, a spin-off for the Moneypenny character, or even a female 007 series. And Brock's response was often said to be the same. Did you read the contract? Now, I think one of the biggest problems we might see if Amazon decides to go in this route, put out content constantly, is we're not going to be waiting for anything new. Like they're not going to take their time. They're just going to constantly push all these spinoffs, and it might be hard to keep up with because now you're creating all these different universes. They may not be connected. They may not be organized. And the thing is, when it comes to James Bond films, they are their own movies. So you have a list of movies where you have one James Bond. You make 3 to 4 movies. Then you wait 5 to 10 years to add another James Bond. You get the fans waiting and anticipating of what you're going to do, and you're taking your time. That's the biggest thing. If you're rushing out these projects, you don't build enough timelines where we can actually care about a character. You've got these spin-offs with female 007s, or you have a 008 or whatever it may be. That might end in a disaster. Now, I'm not saying it won't work, but it could get to a point where the fans just don't care because you're putting out too much and you're not saving. Less is more. You look at Jack Reacher, he hasn't been around as much as James Bond. James Bond has been around for a very long time, 60 plus years. So if you decide to go in this direction where you want to push out content year in and year out with these TV shows, these spinoffs, it might be overwhelming and people might just stop caring at some point. So Amazon executives are perhaps reluctant to cast an unknown actor as the next Bond, running against Broccoli's preference for what the genre described as a mixture of gut instinct with a healthy amount of risk. Now, I get where they're coming from. They don't want to put a famous actor as James Bond, but I don't think it's a bad idea to have a well-known actor to play this role. But again, Amazon has to be careful. If they go out and decide to gender swap right away and decide to have a female James Bond, you're going to turn off a lot of the fans because they're known to see a male white figure as a character. When it comes to race swapping, I'm not against that because I think Idris Elba, he comes to mind. I think he'd be a really good James Bond. A black James Bond would be pretty cool to watch, but I think they need to do it correctly. And when it comes to these different series in the franchise, I don't think that's going to work out in my opinion, because you're going to have different James Bonds and you're like, okay, which one do I care about more? And here's the thing, when it comes to movies, you're trying to build that anticipation. And when you make these TV shows, it's like, yeah, it's cool, but why not just try to develop a story and just take your time with something that could wow the audience and draw them in? But yeah, we'll see what happens here. I think the idea of having a female 007 is cool if she's more like a role next to James Bond. We saw in that Daniel Craig movie, they had a female 007. And it felt like to me she was being really insecure, trying to act like, well, I'm the new 007. And it really turned me off. So if you're going to do it, just let her be her own self and don't push agendas. Because if you end up coming across as a feminist and trying to boss the guys around or overpowering guys in different scenes and it's not natural or it feels forced, that is not a good idea. So do I trust Amazon? I don't know. I really don't have an answer right now because I need to see it play out. Would I be surprised if they ruin this franchise? No, I will not, because they've had obviously shows in the past. Like I remember in the Batman they brought in, it was just a disaster. I didn't like what they did with the characters. And you see it more and more often where they take your favorite characters and they just ruin them. And this might be another example of that. I don't know. We shall see. But again, they better know what's coming. I also want to point out this when it comes to Broccoli, she did, tell her friends that she'd be okay with casting a non-white or gay actor as Bond. And I don't want to see that. If you put a gay James Bond, don't do it because he is a strong, masculine, straight man. That's just who he is. Again, I'm okay with race swapping, especially if it's a guy like Idris Elba. I think he would be really good for that role. I'm not against that at all. But if you're gonna make him gay, it's like, you're gonna turn a huge fan base off. And if you're gonna push woke propaganda on us, not gonna end very well. So a couple things I'm concerned about obviously is pushing out a ton of content where you have spin-off shows and all these TV series, and it'll be hard to keep up with. You might not have any continuity. I think the smart play would just be to make movies because that's what fans are used to. So if you go in another direction, I won't be surprised if it doesn't work out. If it does, cool. But at the end of the day, I think that's a bad idea. So we'll see what happens. Hope you guys enjoyed this video today. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Amazon buying out James Bond. Are you excited for it? Are you unsure? Do you think it's going to end in a massive disaster? Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.